Hello, you're probably here and it's about 3 minutes before we're starting. So you're probably here. What do I mean by that? But I have to test this. So I'm going to see how that looks. I think it's looking fine. I'm just chattering. If you're on, oh, hello, Lori Lucas. Oh my goodness. Lori's on. Hello. Lori was it still is, a writer and I don't know if she's a reporter anymore, but she reported with our local newspaper and she wrote an article about my husband when he was, I can't even talk about it without getting weepy. Anyway, she wrote this most marvelous article about my husband just before he passed, and then the article afterwards, and it was, anyway, that was 10 years ago. So who else? Hello, Lori. We'll start right on time. And I've got my whole kitchen sort of out and about. And, well, I'll talk after we begin about what that process will be like, because I'll be carrying you all over with me. And I have a ring light that I usually won't use, but I needed the light, and it makes circles on my glasses. So I think that's pretty funny. Anyway, let's see. If I had a joke, I'd tell you a joke while we're waiting. Let's see, what else? It's just gorgeous. I'm here in Southern California. Don't know where you are. Hello, Cynthia Ortiz and John O'Kane. And it is, if I don't want to disturb the camera because it's pretty well set. But if I could, I'd walk you into my backyard. You know, I'm a landscape designer well, I did that for a long, long time, 20 years, got awards, and a master gardener, and it's so beautiful out there right now. I think I should do a live, just walking through the garden and talking about plants, because you all have, even if it's minute, even if it's a bowl, even if it's a cute little thing like this that I got at Trader Joe's, you all have a garden. And if you take some time with it, it makes you smile every time you look at it. And we could use all the smiles that we could get. And anyway, when I'm actually demonstrating, I won't be able to see the screen very well because I'm doing this with my phone. There was no way I could conveniently walk around the kitchen and do it with my computer. And because of that, the screen has to be vertical instead of horizontal, and I worried about that. But we'll be on this little trip walking through the kitchen, and it won't be as professional as it would be if I had a backup man or a backup woman following me around. But it is what it is, and I'm absolutely fine with it. And let's see, what else? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Nan Simonson. I wrote Aging Powerfully, my book about my intention and my mission to create a movement of other people with the intention to live into our 70s, I am 70, 80s, 90s, and beyond in vibrant health, with balance in our life and joy. And joy is different than happiness. It's deep-seated. And so working as a health and lifestyle coach with Lifestyle Medical, a general practice here in Riverside, California, I've seen so many people completely turn their life around because they turned their health around, and they did it with the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And they are, you got to get enough sleep, enough time to de-stress. We call it resilience. It makes all the difference in healing and staying well and digesting. You have to have community around you, the people you love, the people who love you, your outreach to them, their attention to you, and purpose. You got to keep moving. I move at least an hour and a half every day. This morning I rode my bike for an hour along what we call the river bottom, and around a park that has ducks and geese and heron. Is it a heron or an egret, that white one? And so there's things to look at and air to breathe, and you need to get outside with the sun on your face every morning. It sets your circadian clock. And then finally, the food. It's the food. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Who said that? Hippocrates. What, 2,300 years ago, the man knew. So we're going to talk about food today, and not really food as much as about the things that I use in my kitchen to make my food preparation easier. And while I was setting things out, I thought, oh my gosh, Nan, you're going to make some people think they can't do it. You have stuff that some kitchens don't have the room for. You have things that you could have lived without. I've cooked my entire life. I've always loved food. As a matter of fact, if you read my book, you know I had a eating disorder from the time I was 15 until 67. That's a long time to be an addict. And I spent a lot of time thinking about food. But when I wasn't binging, I was studying nutrition. That's what people do sometimes. But that's been over for almost 3 years now. And I talk about that in my book. And part of what mattered and part of what happened is that I began changing my diet and then completely changed it to whole food, plant-based. A very nourishing way to balance out your entire body system, because it feeds the gut. The only thing your microbiome, bacteria, and microbes eat is starch, meaning plant foods. And it just made the difference. So I'm not going to go into that anymore. So what I wanted to talk to you about is, don't be afraid of what I show you, because you could use a fraction of this. But I do cooking courses. I have for, well, going on 3 years now for Lifestyle Medical. And now I'm doing them on my own, on my YouTube channel. And that's just Nan Simonson, youtube.com, Nan Simonson. And there's also a Nancy Simonson, and that shows up, but that's not me. And so I'll just keep accumulating things that feel good, that work well. So don't think you have to have all this, but here we go. Let's start with what you cook with. This is my cooking center, and in these cupboards, I keep all of this. I like All-Clad, the brand All-Clad for pots. Basically, stainless steel pots are excellent. They're not going to leach a lot out. I used to cook a lot with aluminum. The problem is aluminum will leach into your foods, especially acidic foods. What's acidic? Well, tomato sauces, things that you throw vinegar into, or apple cider vinegar, or maybe not to a great degree if you only have a little of that. But I thought, I think I'll leave aluminum alone. Even the aluminum that's the darker cooking pots, I just don't use those anymore. So I use stainless steel. One of the safest is, I want to say ceramic, but what am I thinking of? Like Le Creuset, where it's a porcelain, you know, the porcelain lined steel. But they're so heavy and they're hard to store. So I love the All-Clad, but there are other very good brands of heavy bottomed stainless steel pots. And the reason I have the baking soda out here is because you can clean stainless steel all over your kitchen with something called bartender's help. Is that what it is? Bartender's buddy. But that has oxalic acid in it, and even a little of that in you is not good at all. And I don't know how well I rinse things. And so I simply sprinkle baking soda in the pan, use one of these scruffies, and it shines it up for me and shines up the bottom. And I kind of like the way they look that way. So where would you get ideas like that? Recommendation for a book. Clean My Space, Melissa Maker. She's fun. She's this young, pretty, energetic thing that surprised me that she knew so much about cleaning. And she, throughout the book, she makes her own combinations using baking soda, using alcohol, rubbing alcohol, mixing things together that are non-toxic, but that will clean your surfaces really well. So I recommend her book. I learned a lot. I learned how to move when you clean. I used to clean like this. And she said, she didn't say, why would you do that? But she taught to clean like this. So you're moving through and down and getting things off. See, I'm going to get really off track on this thing today. All right. And the pans that I like to have, a 3-quart, a 6-quart, an 8-quart. You have to have a skillet. Now, when it gets to the skillets, I fell in love with, and I do enjoy having a non-stick surface, but they can be very toxic. But the brands that I trust, and you can Google non-toxic, non-stick pans, and there are a number of them. The one that I really fell in love with because I heard it recommended by a number of people, I believe Tammy of Nutmeg Notebook, I think AJ uses it, and that is the Scan Pan. They're Danish, they're kind of pricey, but you're going to have something like this forever if you treat it well. And so my skillets include also an all-clad non-stick. Why do I like the non-stick? I don't use any oil. Now, I don't have to dry saute in non-stick. I can dry saute in stainless steel, but the dry sauteing in the non-stick allows me to get a caramelization before a burn a little bit more easily. That's all. And then this is my largest all-clad. Scan pan. I couldn't live without this. I'll do a pound of mushrooms in here and caramelize them and start them off with either shallots or onions and dry saute. And watch my videos. You'll see that I dry saute everything because it caramelizes the onion and enriches the flavor. So what am I showing you here? Well, I don't have a lot of room down here for all of this, so I stack. For example, I stack into the 8-quart my 6-quart. Now, why do I have this narrow 6-quart instead of the wider one? I use that a lot for stock, and I have a strainer that fits this really well because I make my own stock from scraps of vegetables that I save throughout the week in the freezer so that I can make my own stock. I don't buy stock, I don't have to, and my stock's organic because most of my vegetables are organic. And so I'm able to stack this, and you may think, boy, Nan, that's inconvenient. Well, it is what it is because I don't have that much room, and it's not a big deal. And getting up and down is real good for your legs. And this one, this is another one of my favorite sizes. This one is it's actually called Tramatonia. I got this, I think, at Marshall's. Marshall's carries some pretty neat brands at a fraction of the cost, and I'm pretty sure I got it there. But this is also a very well-made, heavy-bottomed pan that I make something that's in my nansimonson.com is my website. Recipes there, and it links you to my cooking station or channel. And I make something called a portobello pot roast in here. It's like a pot roast, but it's basically the portobellos are what look like the meat. And I haven't had meat in a couple of years. Anyway, so when I store this goes like this goes on top, this goes in here, this flips over, boom. When I put this, I have a stack of pans like this. I have even some larger ones than that with higher sides, but I'll put this in and then put this on top so that the handle, which is upside down, there. So that is how I cook. This is the surface I use when I cook. Now I'm repositioning you, and this is going to go on throughout the class. Is this professional? No, not particularly, but it is what it is. All right. Can you see me? I think so. Make sure the sound's all right. I'll speak up because I'm not sure how well you can hear me. You got to have knives. I have a son, Eric, who is 43 now, and he doesn't like my knives because he uses these very professional Japanese knives that are as sharp as a razor blade. And I cut myself constantly because I move really fast. and that's not my excuse, I just do it. Anyway, I love these knives, and I can sharpen them very well. If you have a knife set, you want to have a honing tool so that you can have your knives clean or sharpened. I've seen people do it this way, and I've seen people do it this way. This is what I tend to do. And what happens is, if you have your knife sharpened professionally, or you have a sharpening tool, it kind of wears the edge down. Ultimately, you'll have a toothpick. I'm exaggerating, it would take a while. But there's no need to do that. Really, what happens when you cut a lot is that the metal, I'll call them shards, but they're tiny, they just get misaligned. And by doing this, you align and get it all the way to the tip, get it all the way through. I knew I hadn't, because the other day I was cutting olives, and back here I could slice them easily. Back here I was smashing them, my Kalamata olives. And so I thought, okay, man, get it straight. And this is a chef knife. If you have just a few things, if you have a small kitchen, if you don't want a bunch of stuff, you got to have a chef knife. And I'll show you the cutting boards in a minute. But the chef knife allows you to do a motion like this that you just are not going to get done with a knife like this, which is you can call this a boning knife, but actually there's another name for it. What would that be? You're probably telling me, but I'm too far from the screen. Anyway, these knives are from Tupperware. I have, for almost 30 years, was very involved with Tupperware. Had a 4-month-old, went to a Tupperware party. Before I knew it, I was blessedly getting out of the house a few nights a week to do demonstrations for people. And that was when Eric was 4 months old. That led to becoming a manager. That led to having or being offered a Tupperware franchise. They had those at that time. And for almost 30 years, I was a company owner. We had our own warehouse and all of that. So you'll see a lot of Tupperware because it's a good product, because it helps people make money if they need to make money. But also, I love what they make, and they guarantee it. So it's also handy to have a fork. Trouble is, no, it's not the trouble is. The good thing is, I don't use this anymore. Why? Well, I could. If I make cauliflower steaks, boom, slice, slice, rather than holding it and trying to hold it still. But of course, this was designed for meats when you're trimming them, and I don't do that anymore. And a bread knife, a serrated bread knife is handy to cut through crusty things and not mash them. Steak knives, when I did my portobello mushroom pot roast the other night, I used my steak knives because we never use them anymore. There are no steaks around here. And it was kind of fun to cut our portobellos with a steak knife. And then you want some smaller, gosh, there's a name for this too. I'm going to do this all day because I can't remember what some of these are. And this is a tomato knife, well serrated, again, so as to cut without mashing, especially a very ripe tomato. And you might think, well, just have a sharper knife, Nan. But that works well. My husband loves this one that I have. He uses this to slice things. I'm not sure why he likes this better than this, but he does. And then finally, scissors. Get some kitchen scissors. Get a good pair. This is the best I've ever used. And they are, oh man. Okay, it's going to come to me later. Oh, even Costco is selling them now. Oh, I'll think about it. Somebody's probably telling me and I can't. Oh, Cutco. Honestly, they're the best. They're ridiculously expensive, maybe like $70. But I've lost them. I've taken them to the garden and probably picked them up with the debris and tossed them. I've done that twice. I still keep buying only this one. Now, why do you need scissors in your kitchen? Almost every bag, well, all those things that are shrink packaged where you have to get through the plastic, even your vitamin bottles. You can't get into those without trying to slice it with a knife. This goes right on through it. When I had this demonstrated to me, she cut a penny with it. I haven't tried that, I don't want to, but, and it went right through. And I thought, okay, that's a great pair of scissors, and because they come apart easily, they're easy to clean. But do get some scissors. You cut into bags this way. You cut into things constantly. All day long, I'm pulling these out to use for something. I'll even cut the tips off of a handful of green beans, you know, the stem tip. You don't have to cut off that other little tip. And I'm going to get this out of my way and put this back up here. All right. My grandfather, this is just an aside, my grandfather was a sculptor in Italy, came here and did a number of celebrities, busts of them. But this is a piece of my grandfather's work. His name was Edgardo Simoni. Okay, let's talk about cutting. You're going to be cutting with your scissors, but there are other ways and other things to cut that I like certain tools for. And you've seen me do this on a number of my videos as well. I saw this probably, and I'm going to use these names, and if you don't know who they are, when you go whole food plant-based, meaning when you become more plant-centered, and if you're saying, Nan, let that go, my poor son and his wife and their kids, I mean, they just must want to say, you know, Mom, just stop. But that's another thing. Why did I even bring that up? Oh, because if I was to help anybody improve their diet, I'm convinced that we are meant to eat plants. And because the only thing that nourishes the microbiome, that actually enhances your entire body system, including your neurotransmitters, are plant foods. And so if you simply went more plant-centered, just add more plants to whatever you're doing. And by plants, we're looking at fruits and vegetables, legumes, that's beans, grains. There are thousands of different grains. I've just discovered sorghum and I adore it. Oat groats I live on. Not oatmeal, but oat groats. That's that chewy, nubby thing like a wheat berry or a farro. There's something to chewing those. Anyway, just add more and more of that. Don't fear starches. People are so wrong when they fear starches. It's the only thing your microbiome eats, the bugs in the microbiome. So, enough of that. Well, when I chop, in some of my dishes, there's a South African peanut stew that is on my site. And, well, a number of things. I like this. Oh, that's what I was starting to say about Chef AJ, about Tammy's Nutmeg Notebook, about they're really wonderful young people now doing a lot on plant-based eating, something Kiki, who have discovered that they can keep their weight down, get their skin glowing, clear up acne, and stay energetic and live as long as 80s and 90s and beyond by taking care of themselves with a plant-based diet. Well, AJ and Tammy of Nutmeg Notebook, I learned a lot from, because when I didn't know what to do and didn't know how to make this work 2 years ago in 2018, a lot of these things I've adopted from them, so credit where credit's due. So what's great about the Vidalia Chop Wizard is if I took an onion and peeled it and then chopped it this way, put it on here, whap. I do that whap 3 times. I've gotten through an entire onion, and depending on the blade, they're nicely cut, uniform diced pieces, and so they cook in the same amount of time. That African peanut stew uses sweet potato, or maybe that's a different one, another sweet potato. Anyway, there are a lot of recipes. I like these uniform dices of carrot, of sweet potato. They're toothy, they're I don't know, I just like that. But this has a small dice as well as a slice. I can do mushrooms with this. Don't do sweet potatoes with it. It's not strong enough to go through a hard potato. And to clean this little top. Just disassemble this now. To clean this little top, this tool allows you to get the food out because this holds the food down when you clean it. But also the Pro, the slightly more expensive one, and this is on Amazon, Vidalia Wizard Pro, has this little sheet that you pull off, and it's perforated, and it just comes right off and brings everything with it. So this goes in here, this goes under here, and it stores really easily. I'll leave it right here. The other thing I like very much is to have a mandolin. I have a larger mandolin that sits up on its haunches with legs at the bottom, and it will hold, it's wider, and so it does more. But I saw this on one of their shows, and I liked it a lot, and it's on Amazon. It's the Progressive brand mandolin. The value of a mandolin is that, for example, every day when I have my salads, if you look at my Instagram and Facebook, well, Instagram especially, well, yeah, even Facebook, my Facebook group is Aging Powerfully with Nan Power Agers, but I also have a Facebook page, which is Aging Powerfully with Nan, and my Instagram's the same thing. Well, if you look at my salad making, I'm always putting a lot of mixed greens in a bowl with shredded carrot and shredded cabbage. Great way to shred. This will shred the cabbage into those ribbons, but if I turn this up, eek, these teeth come up, and then I'm able to julienne, and I'm able to create higher or lower or thickness, actually. But I want to warn you about something. I said I cut myself all the time. I heard somebody on one of the channels, as a matter of fact, AJ was watching a chef, and she admonished her because the woman is going bam, 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 bam with her her mandolin. And AJ said, you better be careful, you're going to cut yourself. And she says, oh, no, I won't. The last time I said that, whack, sliced my finger wide open on something. And actually, I've done it a couple of times in this, even recently. I was way above it, but I put it on a slight tilt, and I cut myself. That's why this is here. Now I will use this, put the, let's say a beet. I love raw shredded beet on my salad. And I hold, it's a little more awkward on a roly-poly thing than to just hold it, but I don't like to cut myself. It's one thing to cut, it's another thing to bleed, sorry. But then it's another thing to wait for it to heal, and it gets funky hard, and who needs it? So, love the mandolin, but get a glove. And you'll find these. They're called cutting gloves, Amazon, not expensive. And it's not that you become impervious to something sharp, but it really does protect you, because I can come right down to the blade and I'm okay. Just don't push it. So that's my mandolin, that's my Vidalia Wizard. What about things like garlic? I did an entire video, look for it on my YouTube cooking channel. I did an entire thing on garlic because this was just handy. I bought this, you can get these on Amazon. It's a garlic roller, roll. And without touching the garlic any further, I have a peeled piece of garlic. Now, it's not always that easy, because if the garlic's a little dry and the skin has adhered to it, it won't happen that quickly. But then I put this in this container, and I'm not going to do it because as soon as we finish today, I'm gone. I'm at Palos Verdes, where my son lives. That's a peninsula on the Pacific Ocean going west, and they're taking off a little bit, and I'm going to be watching my grandkids. And now that I'm vaccinated, it's the first time that I will have spent this kind of time with them in almost a year and a half, actually, at their house. And so I'm really excited. But as soon as I finish, I'm going to get everything put away and then run out the door so I can be there so they can head off on their vacation. But so picture, and you'll see it in my video, this is a Tupperware piece called, I want to call it the mini chopper, Tupperware mini chopper, but if you if you've got a Tupperware lady, call her. But if you don't, Amazon has this. It's not inexpensive. It's like $35, $38. But again, it's guaranteed and for life. And with the garlic in here, I buy these big cloves. This is a half of a big clove, a big head with these fat cloves. Easier to cut. So this probably has 15 cloves in it. Wrap, and I have chopped garlic. Then I put it in a little glass jar. Otherwise, if you keep it in plastic, that plastic really it permeates it. And that's my cute little chopped garlic container. So that's the way that looks in my refrigerator. Why would I have a nut cracker? I do eat nuts. My husband and I snack on raw, unsalted nuts, especially Brazil nuts, because they have selenium. Don't overdo it. 1 or 2 a day. Too much and they accumulate and you don't want that much selenium. But that's not why I have a nut cracker. I find that there are some bottle caps, little bottle caps, vanilla bottle, or actually I just ordered some vanilla powder because I heard Chef AJ talking about the excellence of vanilla powder as opposed to vanilla extract with the alcohol in it and all. So I ordered it, but sometimes you can't get into any, just little bottles. And a nutcracker is what I use to get into a small bottle. So that's one of my items that I love to have that is handy. So I thought I'd bring that up. Also have to have a funnel. This one is a Tupperware one from 40 years ago that we used to give out at the demonstrations. I think they're doing a lot of demonstrations now with Zoom because of the pandemic. But have a funnel because, for example, I have a lemon tree. It's a Meyer lemon tree. Oh, Meyer lemons they're a hybrid between an orange or a mandarin orange or and a lemon, and it's just a marvelous juice. But I will pick 30 or 40 of them, juice them. I have a bottle that I keep them in, a small, it looks like a milk bottle in the refrigerator, and this is the only way I can get it in that bottle without spilling it all over. And I could say that again and again in a number of things. Oh, my broth. I pour my broth into what looks like a milk bottle as well. Well, it is. It's the bigger one. So get a funnel. Funnels are handy to have. And I think that's all I have to say about that. Oh, and then I freeze, and I'll show you some storage containers in just a bit. Then I freeze the lemon juice in 2-cup containers, a little less than 2 cups. And they're there all year until I need my lemon, because when I can't get fresh lemons anymore. Well, you always can, but they can be 50 and 70 cents each. It's better just to have your own juice that way. Handy gadget, if you cook and want, and God, there's so many dishes. A peanut sauce kind of a dish is so enhanced with just a touch, or even something with nutritional yeast that has a cheesy flavor with just a touch of nutmeg. And nutmeg is best if used as a pod. And this is a nutmeg grater. And when you grate, it comes out, oops, there it is. It comes out the bottom, and that's the only way you get that marvelous freshness of nutmeg. Try it on, let's say green beans with garlic and maybe a tiny bit of, would I put tamari, maybe, and then just a touch of nutmeg. It's like, whoa, what just happened? Okay, and then, speaking of lemon, best gadget for lemons and limes, you cut it in half and you put face down, and then it sort of turns it inside out, and you're able to juice quickly that way. If you have a lot, then something like this, I don't know that they sell this anymore, but you can get things like this online or at a market, but some markets aren't carrying a lot because a lot of people aren't going into stores. But this is a Tupperware piece, and it had the reamer, that's called a reamer. Oh, speaking of reamers, oh there. Some people swear by this because it's this, but just held in your hand. That's a reamer as well. But it has the reamer, but this one also has a little grater, and it has, I shouldn't show you this, because I don't know that it's for sale anymore. The handy thing is that you're juicing into a container, so look for something like that, because if you just need a half a cup for a salad dressing or something, and you don't have a lot already made, this is a handy way to do that. So consider a juicer. You're going to say, why are you showing me a can opener? I had this for probably 6 months. How am I doing? Oh, talk faster. For probably 6 months, and couldn't figure out how to use it. Now I think, what was wrong with me? It was easy. It's a can opener that, and I'm going to do this even though I'm leaving, but you know what? When I go to someone's house to stay, I'll be there for a few days. I bring a lot of my own stuff, especially if they are not whole food, plant-based, because there's stuff that I have that I want to eat. And there, lifts it off, or you lift it off, but there's no sharp edges. The other day, no, not the other day, it was months and months and months ago, I opened a can of coconut milk for one of my low-fat coconut or light coconut milk for one of my dishes I'm putting to the stove where I would cook it. And there was a thick layer, because as you know, with coconut milk on a cold day, you're going to have a cap of fat. Don't just hit that cap, everything comes up. You have to kind of gently get it. And I put my finger like this to get the cap, slice. You know, that's what I mean when I cut myself all the time. This will not happen with this can opener, and I like it a lot. This particular brand is Good Cook. But you'll find this kind of a can opener, and it's easy, and it's even smaller than the one that has the double handle. All right, measuring. I like Tupperware's measuring cups, so look for measuring cups that will save you a little bit of time. And why does this save time? Well, the 6 of them are 1 cup, 3/4 of a cup, 2/3 of a cup, a half a cup, 1/3 of a cup, and a 1/4 cup. That's pretty handy. I like that. You might think, well, it's not that big of a deal to measure 1/3 of a cup twice. Well, I like to measure 2/3 of a cup all at once. Or if I want to fill up this 1/3 cup high enough to be what I think is a half a cup, whereas filling this up to the very top, if I'm moving it around the kitchen, might spill, I can measure that half a cup in a 2/3 cup measure. Anyway, I just like having the extra ones, so you can consider that. I heard this on one of the cooking shows, and I think it was AJ's, one of the chefs said this, and she said, boy, that was worth the price of admission. And that was measuring cups in an open container rather than kept with their circular ring. And you'll hear me talk a lot about this particular set. Got it on Amazon. I just looked for measuring spoons, because that are narrow measuring spoons, but they'll have them on there. When I get into a narrow jar, like when I'm measuring a tablespoon of chopped garlic, why would I do that? Because a tablespoon's 3 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon of this chopped garlic, is 1 clove. You know, when you're getting really big cloves like this, it's sometimes hard to know what an average clove would be. So if I'm getting a tablespoon out, I can get it in there. If I'm using the round ones, I can't do that. I have to pour it, and then I have little bits of garlic all over. So it's handy to take them off the ring. It's handy to have the narrow ones that can get into a narrower jar. And then just a few other things. Tongs. Gosh, what would we do without tongs? We need tongs to toss things around, to do things without burning ourselves. I like the ones that have the back that will secure the tongs closer together because it saves time. Love this little teeny set. There's so many things that you can pick up, and these have a silicone end. And silicone, as opposed to plastic or nylon, is much safer with your food. You're not going to get, it's problematic to have things melting in your food, especially the plastics and the petroleum-based products. And so, love tongs, a pear, just a plain old pear, but one that's a little fancier if you want to put it on the table. We had asparagus last night, roasted asparagus. Needed that. to serve the asparagus, even though I could barely keep my husband from reaching in and grabbing a spear and eating it. I don't eat ice cream. I don't even normally do the kind of ice cream that is like the coconut ice cream, cashew ice cream. The only ice cream that I do is what we call nice cream, where you use your food processor or the blender or some of the machines like the Yonana machine, which I have one of, to scoop up. So I would scoop up the nice cream, which is fruit and flavorings, fruit and cocoa and dates and bananas and mango. Oh my gosh, fabulous. Tastes like ice cream, but you're not getting all of the preservatives and none of the dairy. We don't do dairy. And so, but why would I like this in addition to that? I can scoop up my oat clusters. You'll see that as a recipe for great oat cookies that are oats, bananas, and a little bit of nut if you use nut. And it's handy to scoop up with a scoop that releases. That's handy as well. And then finally on this table, I learned from, and I think it was probably one of AJ's shows, I learned from one of her chef guests how to make, when you make your own bean burgers, how to form them. And she used the cover of a mason jar, lined it with a little bit of plastic wrap. I doubled some plastic wrap here, pushed the mixture into that, and then simply release it by pulling up the corner of the plastic and going back and making them one after another after another. Great way to make your plant-based burgers. I found this at Marshall's for maybe $5 and loved it because it makes a wider burger, and I like a wider burger. I don't always eat a burger with bread because I can't have the gluten, and some of the, I found some breads that are pretty good, but most I'm not crazy about. But I crumble the burgers up, or either eat it as a lettuce wrap or crumble the burger up over my salads. Just freeze them, make a bunch, freeze them, and then crumble them over after I heat them. Okay, I'm going to move you because I'm going to show you a couple of other things that I just love. One is, let me see if you see it. Yes, you do. I'm going to move you a little closer. Okay. Love, love, love. And this was introduced by Tammy. Oh, these are so handy. They're silicone mitts. Love the Breville Smart Air oven. They're expensive, but if you get them, Amazon doesn't have them right now, but if you get it at Bed Bath & Beyond and have a 20% off coupon, it brings the price down. Otherwise, they're about $3.50, $3.70. But look at what this does. Let me turn this off. Toasts, bagels also, so it's just the top. Broiled, baked, roast, warm. I use the warming every day to warm up our plates before I plate my food. Pizza, and that actually will warm up a piece of pizza. Do we have pizza? Yes, but it's plant-based pizza, and I don't use the fake, I'll call it the vegan cheeses. They're too high in fat. Proofing, air fry, love the air fry feature. I do tortillas in here and make my own tortilla chips with no fat. Reheat cookies, slow cut or cook, and dehydrate. I use this more than I use my own oven because it heats quickly, cools quickly, and will fit a 9 by 13 pan. All right, bring you over here. Teapot. I do a lot of herb teas, so I love my teapot. You have to have strainers. Strainers, this is what I use to dump out into that more narrow pot to then let it cool, or a bowl, but the pot is deeper. When I do my own broth. These three we use constantly and just hang them on a hook. Well, the small one I don't hang on a hook because it's kind of in the way. These two I hang on a hook, and we use them all the time. If you're using grains a lot, you rinse your grains. If you cook quinoa, you absolutely rinse the quinoa. It has something called saponin in it that's a soapy flavored slightly, not toxic, but irritating to the gut material that you want to get off of your quinoa. Oh, this, I have a compost pile in the back. When that is cooking, meaning it's degrading because I've filled it up, even in my compost or the green bin for the city, I put all of our scraps. If it's not going in my soup, it's going into compost. I love this compost can that my daughter gave me, and then I use compostable bags that are 100% compostable by NorPro, and these I got on Amazon, and I finally figured out how to make them not collapse when I put food on it. I just use a rubber band. So I just put the bag in, put a rubber band around it, keep it under the sink, and there isn't any any plant product that gets thrown away in any other way, either in my soup or in my compost bin. Cutting boards, you do need a cutting board. I like my bamboo wooden cutting board, but I just got these. I think they were $15. 3 different sizes. I think it was Amazon. They're silicone. They kind of stay where you put them, and it's handy to pull out something so lightweight and be able to move it and kind of bend it a little bit to get the contents, the larger one bends better, into the pot. So I like those handy little things. And then I'm going to bring you over here, to some other appliances. Yes, I use a microwave. Dr. Michael Greger says that it is not going to poison us with our food. I'm going to talk to you a little later about something else that that relates to microwave and every appliance we have. But I'm going to save that for just a little bit. But yes, I use a microwave. As a matter of fact, I wanted to show you these because if you use a microwave and you, for example, I do my oat groats as most people would do oatmeal. I just put it in a bowl, cover it with silicone to hold the heat in. And this set came with 4 that go over big pots or big bowls, small bowls. And then this, which will go over a plate that I'm trying to heat. And I found that to be very handy. So, and again, you can find these online or in a lot of stores, but just things to think about. Couldn't live without my Instant Pot. I make soups and stews and quinoa and oat groats, and a lot of this is on my cooking channel. I have a 6-quart, which is this. I have an 8-quart. I have deep cupboards, and I just put them in the back of the cupboard and then put things in front of them because some people say I don't have room to put something like this. I had mine for 6 months before I was willing to use it because it intimidated me. So if you feel that way, I absolutely understand. But when you start using it, go to one of the cooking shows. Tammy uses hers all the time and even has a show on the Instant Pot and on the Breville oven to help you know how to use those. There's a lot of light here, so it's going to be hard for you to see. But having bowls, I like having a bowl that has a strainer insert because there are a lot of things that you're going to pour out and want to keep the juice for. For example, the aquafaba in a can of garbanzo beans. So a strainer that you can rinse and then just lay it over. You don't have to have this. You could certainly just use one of the strainers I showed you and put it over a bowl. I love having these indestructible stacking bowls. Again, found them and got them online. Again, relatively inexpensive. And they come with seals. But I also like a clear bowl because I can mix with it and they're pretty enough to put on the table with a variety of things in them. Sorry for the sound. A couple of sizes of that. I also have a little bowl that I cherish. If I break this, I'll have to go on a search to find another because of this. Because there are times, for example, I make a mixture of turmeric and cardamom and ginger and cinnamon that I put into my oatmeal, etc. That's how we get our daily turmeric. And when I mix it up and put it into a jar, I'm able to kind of coax it out of there in a direction which wouldn't work with this. And having little teeny cups that are stackable allow you to create a meal with what we call mise en place, and that is in the place you put everything before you begin, and it's helpful to have your spices or, for example, your lemon juice and everything ready. And even when I slice a lemon, I can put it face down in there and it keeps it from degrading. And then the other appliances, again, I can't live without are, well, I could live without it, but I like having a small rice cooker. And with your rice cookers, better than aluminum, try to get a stainless steel liner. You know what I didn't take out? Well, just hear me say it then. What I didn't take out was my big Cuisinart food processor. If you're gonna do even, for example, my black bean burger recipe on my site requires the big food processor, Cuisinart. But I found this little one, and I love my little one to do things like hummus and my salad dressings because it's much less to mix up or mess up. And I also like to have a whirring wand, the wand that you simply put into a soup and whir it around without having to put your soup in the blender. A couple of tools that are handy. I love these new Tovolo silicone spatula stirrers. They can go into heat up to, I think it's 500 degrees. It's firm except on the edges, so it cleans things well, and yet at the same time is malleable at the edges firm enough and yet malleable at the edges. Now I'm trying to rush and it's going to make me not be able to think straight, which I can't do sometimes anyway. Should have had this out when I was talking about grating the nutmeg. And this is a zester. Great way to, when you have a lemon or a grapefruit, use the whole, not one that's sliced, to grate the zest from the outer edge of your citrus that can just liven up any dish. Okay, now I'm going to move you one last time, and we're going to talk about storage. Okay, I have to come and see if you can see what's going on. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say this quickly, and I'm not saying run out and get a new refrigerator, but we decided we needed a new refrigerator. I looked, and I whole food, plant-based, buy massive amounts of vegetables and fruits. I mean, that's what we fill our bags with. We come home, and you're going to see I have some videos just showing a cornucopia, a plethora of produce, and you need a place to store it. What I loved about this refrigerator is that these drawers that were meant to be for anything, cold cuts, cans, deli cheeses, those things that we don't do, I can load with my vegetables, and they're deep, deep, deep. So I have those two. I also have two other drawers, again, loaded with vegetables, and then plenty of room even to put things like my stand-up asparagus and stand-up in a jar cilantro that I get fresh every week as well. Someday maybe I'll do a what I store kind of a video. Speaking of storage, and that would be a fun thing to do. This is representative of my Tupperware days. That's how I store my grains, seeds, and nuts. This entire container is shiitake mushrooms in it, dried. Well, no, I'm not going to do this. Okay, that'll be some other time. That's storage. Now, you might be thinking, Nan, you're doing what we've been told not to do. Oh, and I'll also show you, hold on a minute, because I am going to be talking about storage. It's handy to have containers that are easy to get to, that you can grab and store your food in the refrigerator or the freezer. Okay. And you might be thinking, but Nan, you're using all this plastic. I agree with you. If I had even more storage room, I would have nothing but jars. Glass is the way to go. The problem is, I don't have that much room. I constantly make things in enormous batches. Soups, I'm going to get 3 or 4 of these containers for every soup I make because that's just the way I cook. I can't do that in glass, so I'm using plastic. These, for example, are the Ziploc 5-cup containers, which are perfect for a soup for 2 for a meal or a stew. In which case you're going to want to get labels. Don't think for a minute that you're going to know what a frosty bowl of red stuff is. It could be chili, it could be spaghetti sauce, it could be a tomato soup. And when I bought these online, Amazon, I said easy release labels because that way I can take them off easily. Otherwise they stick to the degree like these old labels I had, that they leave a mess on the container that is very hard to get off. But glass jars are ideal, and I have a collection of foods. Well, for example, I don't know if you can still see this, you really can't, but like my salad dressings, my salad dressings I'll put in jars. Anyway, we'll get into all of that some other time. Okay, and then one more thing, and then I think I'm pretty well done, and that is that one of the cooking shows, I think it might have been Tammy's Nutmeg Notebook, and if you're looking to expand your repertoire of recipes, but also your understanding of whole food, plant-based, predominant or exclusive eating, consider AJ's channel or Nutmeg Notebook. They do tutorials on how to get there, on how to transition. And then there are a lot of people on YouTube and Instagram who are doing a lot of this, a lot of young people. It's very exciting. So this was Tammy's Nutmeg Notebook, and these are, they're called Super, S-U-P-E-R cubes, Super Cubes. For storage, this is such a great thing. When I make date paste, for example, and I have to get more date paste because this is all I have left, just a little bit. What will I do? I'll go into my freezer, and now this isn't date paste. Oh, here it is, right there. All of this is date paste. No, it's not. See what I mean? You have to have labels. Romanesca sauce. It looks just like date paste. This is one of these cubes. And so what happens is you make a bunch of something. This will hold a 1/4 cup or a 1/2 cup. This one will hold a 1/2 cup or an entire cup. There's one with 2 cups, one with 4 cups. They have the cover. You put it in the freezer. And whether or not I fill all of them, I may fill only 3. I can push it out, get that little cube, put it in a freezer baggie, zip it, and freeze it. And it's very handy then. When I want to refill this jar, I'll use it all, clean it off, and then I'll just put one of the cubes in here. It has to defrost a little before I can smash it down. Very, very handy way to maneuver through these changes of refusing, as I do, to use refined sugars and wanting to use whole foods, which is a date. Okay, one last thing on storage. You've seen these in the store. If you open a bag, for example, I may have right now a bag of, I bought it in bulk, and these are flax seeds. These little things are handy, but you know what works really well? You get these in the like Staples. My husband has a bunch of these at the office because these are clips to hold papers together, little ones, big ones. You get a whole container of them, and they are the handiest thing for rolling down a bag that you still have food in that you're not ready to store, and then clip it down. So just another thought. I use these all the time. Even if I have something that is, well, I don't know if you can see this, but I have 3 or 4 different things in here, and I'll roll it down and use a clip just so that that one food isn't necessarily, the aroma of it isn't permeating and affecting anything else in there. That's an exaggeration because I don't have anything that would smell that strong. And then one last thing, and that is another tool. Now you're going to say, okay, now she's gone too far. My husband even said, don't do it. EMFs, electromagnetic fields. Okay, I became interested in the possibility of electromagnetic fields affecting us, several years ago. So I bought a meter. This happens to be the tri-field meter. Tri-field meaning that it measures magnetic waves, radio waves, and magnetic waves of a larger spectrum. This book, Radiation Nation, it takes a very non-hysterical, you wear aluminum cap type approach to evaluating the reality of the possibility of these things that we have all over us affecting us at a cellular level, like a cell phone that has a video playing. I put this up against my cell phone, no video, no reading. Put it up against my cell phone with the video on. It's over 70 milligauss. Well, over 3 milligauss, some people believe it starts affecting you over time, accumulatively, at a cellular level. Just something to think about. So, an example of the value of knowing these things. Our daughter was here with her baby. The baby had a sound machine in the crib because the house was noisy and they were trying to get it to sleep. I said, let me go and test something. I put this up against the sound machine. It was 90. And that's a baby. And how often do you have that? Several times a day, that sound machine. We moved it 3 feet away, tested against near the baby, absolutely nothing. We had 2 appliances, a oven and a dishwasher. One day I came out here, well, when I first got it, I'm testing things. Standing next to the oven and the dishwasher, it was over 80 milligauss when the dishwasher was off, when the oven was off. These were old appliances, 25-year-old appliances. Scared me to death. We couldn't run right out and get new ovens and dishwasher, so I just learned, I tested where I could stand to be far enough away from the source to get down to 0. And we have a infrared sauna. My husband uses it every day. I use it a couple of times a week, far and near infrared. And we only bought one that said that they didn't have the EMF reading over 2. I tested it, and indeed that was true. But it taught me to stay away from a thing that had a high reading. The reason I'm bringing this up is the microwave. The microwave's not going to wreck your food, but what it will do, if you stand right there looking at it, is it blasts you. This thing blasts electromagnetic frequency, as does the Breville oven, as does my KitchenAid blender, as does anything with a really powerful motor. Doesn't mean you don't use it, but I'm not going to stand right there next to my blender while it's blending my morning smoothie. I start the smoothie and I back out again. I probably shouldn't have done this, but I had to. I thought if I'm talking about the things that I pay attention to, that's what I pay attention to, one of them. Okay, people, I would love to know what you've had to say. I've got some thank yous. I've got some, there's all kinds of things, but I can't scroll it. So I'm just going to say thank you for joining me. I went over. I meant to be 45 minutes, and this is an hour. This will be left on my channel, so you'll be able to watch it at any time. And gosh, I hope you got something out of it. I hope this was informative. Somebody said to me, Nan, you need to just do an Amazon store on your site so that people can easily find all the stuff you're talking about. It's something more than I know how to do, but maybe I will. And I think that's that. Well, I hope you're going to have a great day. I know I'm going to. In a couple of hours, I'm going to be with my grandkids, 7 and 10 years old, and I just can't wait. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Get my book, Aging Powerfully. See what you can learn from that. I talk all about getting through our later years with very doable lifestyle pillars that can change our health in every way imaginable. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Let's see, how do I turn you off there?